This is the fourth edition of our conversation talking about life as we see it. Today, I have a guest in the room all the way from France, and my guest is going to introduce herself. I will bring her into the studio and she will share who she is and the perspective that she's going to bring to the conversation today. So, all I ask you to do is sit back, relax. Don't forget, as soon as you see this coming up on your stream, share it, ask questions. I'm monitoring every platform. We can answer your questions in real time or we can answer your questions afterwards. As a matter of fact, we can take your contributions in real time. That's the whole idea behind the live class with Charles. Life as we see it. So today I have right here in the room Joel Amaru, all the way from France. Welcome to the live class with Charles, Joel.
Well, thank you, Charles, for having me, and thank you for being live on the live class with Charles. Thank you for having me.
Okay, Joel. Joel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a life coach specializing in burnout and in helping people find their flow so that they can increase their productivity, so that they can find the space within their life to either focus on what they really want to focus on, having enough of space to be able to breathe with a little bit more ease so that they can hopefully avoid burnout altogether.
Wow. Reminds me, you know, of the local fireplace where
Okay.
you have to keep stoking the fire, otherwise it goes out.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's people like, oh, no, I like burning life on, on both end of the candle. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what? It's actually, if you want to go the distance, you need to actually take some rest. You need to turn off the light at times so that you can recharge and recenter and take on the energy you need so that you can give the light out again later on. I think the expression is you can't pour from an empty cup, and that's exactly what I try to explain to people. It's not always easy.
It might not be easy, but I think that everyone can relate to some point in their life when they didn't even have the energy to carry on anymore.
Yeah. And
So
I think
welcome you.
that's the best definition of burnout is wanting to, having to, but not being able to carry on.
Wanting to, but not being able. So there is the desire without the fire. Is that correct?
There is there is that desire to stoke the fire, but it doesn't stem from a positive place. It's usually stem from a fear that we're not enough, we're
Hmm.
not perfect, and people are going to figure out one way or another that we're not one way or another, that we're not something enough, good enough, perfect enough, educated enough, whatever. And in the context of a company, it would be, I am not qualified enough to be in that position. I'm a total fraud. I'm there by luck or by sheer, literally luck. And if I am not 100% perfect all the time, then people are going to figure it out. And I'm going to do everything in my power to be perfect 24/7 within that area of work. And I'm going to focus on work, but it can be true in other area of life as well, to make sure that nobody can criticize me and perceive me as being lacking.
Hmm.
And so they're stoking that fire, but it's almost like a self-imposed proposition. Say, I'm going to have to be perfect 24/7. And that's exhausting. Because
Very,
nobody
very.
is perfect.
There's no time to smell the roses when you think like that.
No. And there is that constant fear. It's, some people, they are driven by a passion, they're driven by a mission, they are driven by a desire to fulfill that mission. And you will say, well, they will say, well, I can do it for years on end. And it's a different story here. The fuel is fear, the fear of being discovered as being less than. And that fear is a very strong fuel, but it's also a very short-lived fuel. And you need to disconnect from that fuel at some point to realize, and actually, as you said, smell the roses, look around and say, you know what? No, I'm actually good at what I do. And if it's the environment that makes me feel like I'm not good, then maybe it's time for me to look at the situation from a different perspective and question why I am in that environment in the first place. But that's really when people are taking that step back, because when they are feeding that fuel, then it's complicated for them to actually even see that there is a problem, and they will fight you.
So how long have you been doing this?
About 10 years now, almost.
Wow.
Ooh, no, it can't be. But yes, it is. It's been 10 years.
You're wondering where the time went, right?
Oh, let me tell you, yeah.
Okay, so this is how we'll flow. In the moment, I'm going to play background music, and then I'll be reading from the Life Class with Charles. It's actually a book.
Oh, fantastic.
It really does exist, right? I'll read the Life Class with the soft music, and then I'll come back to you and then get your perspective of what thoughts ran through your mind when I was reading it. Is that okay?
Sure.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the Life Class with Charles. Life is like a decoder. Life is like a decoder with many channels. Some channels are our favorites. Some programs are boring. Some shock us and some change us. Every life is a channel. What is your channel showing? The way you handle challenges at various stages and phases are like programs and shows on your channel. Your can-do spirit can turn fainters to fighters. The way you look, speak, and work can be an inspiration worthy of emulation. Heaven and earth is watching you today. What are you showing? Remember, your life is a channel. Life Class with Charles. Right. Joel.
While you were talking, I was like, yeah, life. It's true. It's like a radio. You change, like the old-time radio. Not that I can remember that, but but you change the radio. In the whole time you would turn the knob and you would tune into a different channel. And if you didn't like it, well, you just turn the dial and you will get to a different music or a different program. And in a way, it is true. I mean, it has been true for me, but even knowing that, even realizing that, it's sometimes difficult, I find, to remember that we can turn the dial. We have that possibility to change. And I'm not sure that was the answer you were looking for, but for me, it's a reminder that we can change. We have the possibility to change, that we're not trees. We can move. So if we don't like, as you say, a channel, turn the dial. or press the button on your remote control or whatever. But it's the same thing. Is you don't like a channel, you have the possibility to change. And I find that it has been the hardest lesson for me to learn. And it's after the fact, sometimes you're like, oh, why did I stick for so long with that program? It wasn't working for me, but yet I've stayed in that channel for a long time. And through my work, it's quite often the same thing. Is you hear people, they come to me, they explain to me all the suffering they've gone through and why they've burned out, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's not one day you're fine, even though it does appear like that from an external point of view. If you look at the origin of a burnout, it usually stems from a few months to a few years to sometime even a few decades back, where people suddenly have that realization, oh, I'm not good enough. But rather than saying, you know what, I'm going to learn, I'm going to train. And for most of us, that's what goes on. It's like, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm not sure that I'm good at that, but I'm going to learn and I'm going to train and I'm going to gain experience, and it will get easier with time. And then suddenly you turn back, it's been 10 years and you've been doing that for 10 years, and whatever you thought was really complicated is really easy now. That's the good part. But sometimes we find ourselves in situation, and for some reason we're blocked in thinking we can move from that situation. It feels like, oh no, I can't move, I don't have that ability. We feel that it is not possible. We forget we can turn the dial. We forget that we can actually say, you know what, today I'm going to go home early and completely disconnect. And maybe I'm going to do that for the weekend, and maybe it's just an evening because that's all I can do right now, but tomorrow will be a different day. And we forget to have that, and we keep our mind running. And I find that quite often, at least in my experience, it's fear. It's fear that, that we're going to be not good at what we do, and we forget that we have that can-do spirit, that we have that can-do ability, that we've tackled challenge, we overcome challenge, we've learned new things, we can tumble, and it's okay because we stand up again and then we can do again. So I like the idea that life is a channel, and that we have a decoder, and that we have the control of that. I think that's, for me, that's what this lecture brings for me.
So, Joel, as you were speaking, I thought to myself, is it possible that there are people who are on a channel and they are absent-minded, so they don't even know that?
I think we're all at some point, especially when we are caught up in the routines of life. You're on autopilot most of the time. You wake up at 7:02, you take the bus at 7:35. In between, you've done all that you needed to do in the morning. And at 8 o'clock, you're in the office. And nowadays, we're all back in the office. And we open our computer, we may be watching a little bit of the internet, and then we are going to go online, answer our emails, and then at 9 o'clock, we'll have our first meeting, and then the second one. And it's kind of a routine. At 1 o'clock, we go out for lunch with some friends, but it's always the same friends. We go to the same place, or we have our lunch with us. And then at 6 o'clock, we leave and we go down a different routine. But our life is made of routine. And for some people, it's like, oh, no, my life is not with routine. But for most people, that's what we have. And in those routines, we tend to be on autopilot. We don't think about it. And when the thought comes back, or it gets a little bit uncomfortable, you see, and I see it all the time, but I'm sure you see it as well, people kind of get even busier to not listen, to not hear the thoughts, to not hear the discomfort, to ignore it if you want. And so they cram even more things. They got their PhD in busyness, I call it, and they get, they major in little things so that they can avoid measuring on the major things, on the things that are really important to them. And so when they think about it, say, I'm so busy. Yeah, they're busy doing small things that give them a sense that they're doing something,
Right.
but it's not moving the needle, if you want, in the right direction.
Oh, I see. So they're trying to keep busy with life so they don't deal with the real issues.
Exactly. And so I think that's, for me, that's the best way to answer your question. Yes, you can be in a difficult situation, and yet being so busy you don't see it, but unconsciously you keep yourself busy so you don't see it. So that you go back at night, you go to bed at 9 or 11 o'clock and you're dead tired, and you haven't stopped working from 8 o'clock till 11 o'clock at night. But hey, you know what? It's good because you're tired, so you're going to sleep, and you're going to take something to go to sleep, or you're going to numb it. You're going to numb that train of thoughts one way or another, so that you don't think. You keep your mind from thinking.
So, what do we need to do to make our life interesting? Now, Joel, this is really the question, Yeah, you know. Um, um, you can't prepare a meal that you don't eat yourself.
Yeah. Unless you're restaurant owners, I suppose.
Exactly, But
I know.
for what is it that we need to do to make our lives interesting for us
For us.
and then in the world where we live?
And I'm going to kick an open door here,
Okay.
but quite often it's common sense, except common sense is not quite common nowadays.
Right.
It's taking a step back, and now answering the question is, what is it that makes us happy, that is important to us, that whatever that form of that question is. And then make sure that we put it into our calendar first thing. So we put the big blocks in our calendar first, and we make those times, whatever it is, unnegotiable. So if you want to become healthier, or if you want to eat healthier, or if you want to spend time with your family,
Right.
well, you're going to say, okay, what does need to happen? I need to go to the gym more than once every 6 weeks, for example. So that means that I'm going to immediately, and that's the thing, is that what do I want to do, and then take immediate action and put them into your calendar. But it's so, to follow with the idea of going to the gym more often, is finding a class or finding an instructor or whatever, or saying, okay, I'm going to go for a walk every day.
Yes.
And make it what we call SMART goals. So, it has to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be realistic, all sorts of things. And right now my mind goes, I don't know where the other two are. But make it saying, okay, if you say I'm going to go for a walk, well, yeah, you can walk all the way to the down, the corner of the street and come back, and that won't change. Said, okay, no, I'm going to walk a couple of kilometers a week or a day or whatever it is. And you start and you put in and say, okay, how long do I need to do that? I may need 20 minutes. Fine.
Okay.
Where do I put it in my calendar? Maybe I'm so busy, but you know what? I can go at my lunch break because I got 20 minutes for lunch. So I'm going to go for a walk. And maybe what I can do is go to that one bakery that does sandwich kilometers away from my office.
Right.
Grab a sandwich. And I'm giving an example, but it could simply be, you know what? I'm going to go and eat bring my lunch and eat my lunch in the park that is a kilometers away. So I need to walk there, sit, and then come back. And you have to do it. And it's not, oh, well, when I have time. It's like, no, sorry, I need 20 minutes and I'm going to do it.
So I create the time.
Create the time, but also commit to yourself. If your boss tells you, you're having a meeting with me at 9 o'clock, your colleague or somebody else come in at 8:45 and tells you, hey, can you pop into that meeting? You're going to say, sorry, no, I can't because I have that meeting with my boss at 9 o'clock. So can we do it after? Can we do it before or, later? It doesn't matter, but you're just not going to you're not going to postpone your meeting with your boss. Well, those big stone that you're going to put in your calendar are going to be like as important as meeting with your boss.
Now, I want to look at this from a business perspective, Joe. There's a reason why I wrote this live class, and a lot is coming to my mind right now. Some of our channels are favorites. So, what are the things? If life is like a decoder, and every day or some parts of our life are like channels, what are the things that we need to do, or who do we need to become in order to be favorites? Here's the reason why I said that, Joel. As a relationship management enthusiast, I believe, I could be wrong, that the more liked you are, the better life is for you. In other words, if people don't like you, life is going to be tough, unnecessarily tough. So, speaking of which, if you're running a business and there's no patronage, you're going to go out of cash, resources, and steam. If you live in a society where nobody wants to associate with you, it's going to be tough for you to coexist. There are channels, Joel, that attract millions of viewers.
Yeah.
There are programs that are the talk of the town. Everyone wants to be, they don't want to miss the timing of the program, etc., etc. Our lives are like that. Tell me what you think, Joel. What are the things that will make our lives like favorite channels?
I think that in my view, you're talking about our need to be part of the group, so our need to be connected, and also which is the opposite side of the same coin, if you want. That is our need to be significant, so to be unique, to be important, to be perceived as, us, and then there is the rest of the group. So those two needs are contradictory in a sense, because one is we want to be part of a group, and in the same time we have that need to be set aside from the group. And I agree with you. It's like if you find the right channel, people are going to come to you. You're going to be unique to them, but they're going to be attracted to you, and they're going to come and want to be, to be with you, to be like you. Unfortunately, I do find that in society, we've lost that, or we're losing that capacity to connect with people at a real level. But the easiest way to connect with people is to come up with a bigger problem. If you have a big problem, then people are going to connect with you, try to reassure you, to give you support, give you, empathy. So you're going to be part of the group, you're going to be surrounded by the group. But if your problem is big enough, you will also get significance. Because, hey, you know what? My problem is bigger than yours. So you will feel like, and so it's kind of a trap. because we need those two things. But at this point in time, unfortunately, I find that the only way people get that is by having a big enough problem. If they have a big enough problem, their community is going to come to them. They're going to feel connected with those people. But the moment you start to say, you know what, I'm doing well, I'm doing good, people are looking at you like, she must be strange because she's always upbeat. Like, I mean, it's like, no, actually, I am fine.
Right.
And they people will find it difficult to connect with you if you're always happy.
If you're always happy.
It's much easier if you come to somebody and say, well, you know what, I have that big problem, and they say, oh yeah, well, mine is, I was like, this is child play, let me tell you. And you give a big enough problem and the whole group is there around you. So for me, it's realizing that we strive that connection. We strive for that connection. We crave that significance, that feeling that we are important. And you see it with the kids on, TikTok and all that, and they try to present the best and everything, and everybody's like, ooh, I want that. But it's very shallow. But in the group, if you look most of the time, it will be the people that has the biggest problem that will get the most attention. So it's kind of a bittersweet. So for me, it's recognizing that I need connection and I need significance. Recognizing that it's easier to get it if I have a problem, and say, yeah, you know what? It's not who I am. And how can I turn that negative spiral, break that pattern, and connect with people in a positive way? And that's a difficult, but then you create a positive cycle and you create a completely different way to connect that is so much truer. But more complicated for people, because at some point people are going to say, yeah, she's always happy, or, oh God, she's got such a good life, and then they're going to move away. So it's finding a way to connect with people at a positive level, but bring them with you up. And that's where the secret is, I think.
Powerful secret here: connection and significance. So I want to connect with people and I want to be significant in their lives.
Yep.
Now, this is getting interesting because two perspectives come up on my mind right now. There's something about attracting people to who you really are, or attracting people, but it's just a facade. The person they are attracted to is different from who you are as a person. Because it says here, life is a decoder. Some channels are favorites, some programs are boring, some shock us, and some change us.
Yeah.
Now,
and I think for me, you will have, it's all about the emotional charge of each channel. So you, as you said, you will have some channels that are boring. Who wants to stay in a boring channel? So you will discard that channel. You will tune in it. Oh yeah, it's still boring. Up, and you will move on to the next. You will have some channels where, you know what? I got a big got a big problem. And I got everybody coming to me and supporting me top 10 in terms of intensity. So unfortunately, you want to go back to that. And so the trick is to recognize that you're craving this emotional intensity. And now it can be true with connection and with significance, but there are other ways to get that hit of intensity.
Right.
And recognizing that what you're looking for is that intensity. And finding ways to get the same or similar intensity, but in a positive way as opposed to a negative way. But the intensity is what you crave. So if you connect into a channel and you realize, ooh, every single time that I come into a group and I speak about my big problem, everybody's looking at me and connecting with me and supporting me. Then the problem is that I'm going to want to come back and get that because it's a boost. It's like a drug. It's a hit. And I need to be able to free myself from that's the solution, recognize that what I want is the emotional intensity, and flip that and find ways. And that's the difficult part, because finding a way to a negative path it's a highway. Finding the way to a more positive way, it's usually a dirt road, and a complicated one at that. So it's that difficulty with the different channel, and that where I suppose the awareness comes in.
This is interesting, Joel, because you said something about if your life is perfect, you're happy all the time. People are gonna say, oh, they're gonna instead of coming, they're gonna push back. So I have an interesting question for you, Joe. This life class says, of course, some channels are favorite, some are boring, some shock us, some changes. Is it possible? Is there a possibility that there are times in our lives when our channels are boring? Times when we are interesting? Times when we shock those watching? Times when we change other people?
I hope so, and I hope so. And what I find in my life, but also when I work with people, is that unfortunately we have forgotten to enjoy the boring part of life. And especially when you work with people that have gone through a burnout or going through a burnout, they only have one speed, 200%, until they don't have any speed left or any gas left, and then they go at zero or minus something. But they don't understand that there might actually be some gradient between 0 and 100. It's all or nothing.
Or nothing.
And I suppose the key of all the work that I do with those people is to teach them that actually they need those boring times. They need those downtime where nothing exciting really happens, because during those time, then they can recharge their battery. They can, rest and restore so that they can go back out again and be 100%. But they can't be 100% all the time. And life, we all know that when we work, there are things that are exciting to do, but then there is the admin side, there is the paperwork, there is the whatever we don't like. And we can't be, I want to say, glam, and it would be boring. If you ask somebody, what is your favorite food? And for me, it would be chocolate. But I'm pretty sure that if I had chocolate every day, lunch, dinner, and breakfast, at some point I said, okay, no more chocolate. Thank you very much. It would be boring. And I can tell you that it would be really hard to believe. But that's the truth, is that at some point it gets boring. We need change. In the same way that people need routine, they also need change. And I've done quite a lot of work with autistic people. And the key thing that they can do, that you can do with an autistic person, is to provide routines. Make sure that, everything is there and you change. But you can lay the best plan. At some point, they will throw a rock into that routine. And you're like, I've done everything. I've worked, we've worked a routine and everything was on track. And then suddenly there is an explosion. And I'm pretty sure that they need to change as well. They need that variety. So yeah, for some people, the variety might be to decide that they don't want cereal for breakfast. They want a piece of toast. And that's as much variety as they want. But for some, but they will need that variety. We all need a level of variety in our lives. So yeah, some channel will be boring, and it's actually working and saying, okay, you know what, it's a boring channel, but it's time just for me to maybe be less stimulated, but having the time to actually restore. And it can be that, and I've heard that so many times with so many people, oh, sleeping is boring, don't have time, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Like, okay, then we're going to work on sleeping, actually. But it's, it's that if it's not intense,
Right.
and maybe that's the clientele that I work with, but you have some people, you're like, just listening to you, I'm tired. How can you not be exhausted? And it's that, that challenge for them is to actually say, yeah, but that's boring. Sitting down, doing nothing, reading a book, no. But it's the lower, I want to say, well, if you're on the radio, the lower channel, the more boring channel, can also be, it's a change, it's a chance to change your perspective on defining what's boring to something that, okay, I need that. Okay,
So
it's boring, you're not going to stay there. But if you say, well, no, I needed to be able to get back to doing other things, and then
right.
suddenly it becomes more palatable.
So what I hear you say is, if it's either your way or the highway, then you're on the wrong way.
Well, I've learned a long time ago, and I talk from personal experience here, that life is not black and white. There are all sorts of nuance in between the black and the white, and that it doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just that there are different
Life.
things that need to happen at different time, and that it's okay.
Okay. This is interesting because you make every part of life sound like it's got a purpose. For example, I hear you talk about how that boring means you're recharging,
Mm-hmm.
and how that routine and monotony can actually lead to burnout.
It can, yeah.
You know. So here's what now. I want to circle back to the same experiences with different channels. We're talking about the life class today is that life is like a decoder. And that when you turn on your decoder and you change the channels, some channels are boring, some channels are interesting, some channels shock you, some channels change you. Is it possible that you may be boring to A and interesting to B in the same state? So I don't like this program, but there are some people who are on it and they're enjoying it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you, to go back to the analogy of a person with autism, they need that routine to feel safe. And I I have personal experience with autism, so I kind of speak from experience there. They need those routines, whatever those routines are. And you can look at their life and say, really? Do we need to be, there is no anxiety if the cereal on there and we're having toast, it's the same thing and it's a different form of cereal, but, presented differently. But it will be very anxiety driven for them. But they look at our way of doing things, and maybe, one morning waking up at 7 o'clock and the next morning waking up at 5 to 8, and I'm late, and running, and they're looking at us like thinking, this is crazy. Well, for them, if they wake up at 7 o'clock every morning and then they go through the routine, they know what to expect, and it makes them feel good, and relaxed. When for us, it's just like, you know what? Yay, I got almost 1 hour full or more of sleep. I needed it. So that's good. Yeah, I'm going to run for 5 minutes, but it's okay. So absolutely, we need different profile and different energy to make a world. And within a company, if you were to hire the same profile throughout the company, it wouldn't work. Because the same profile would have the same strengths, but also have the same weaknesses. That means that your company overall will have a really, really strong pull and a very, very strong weakness in the same, in the same company. If you hire exactly the same profile, you're going to find yourself with people that will have all the same strengths and the same ability, and the weakness will be the same, and therefore your company will be exposed through that weakness. When if you said, okay, well, I need some people that are good at organizing, I need a leader, I need a doer, I need somebody who's going to be good with detail so that they can run the program and make sure that all the step of this project is running
Go to the
smoothly.
same line, right?
And you need somebody who's going to have a vision, but that person may not be attached to the ground, and he will have like those grand vision of maybe, I don't know, hiring, I don't know, hot air balloons, and we're going to have turning things, and you're like, what is he doing? We need to bring him back. But through that dreamers, if you want, or that creativity, we're going to say, oh yeah, but all the things that he or she dreamed up, there is that one idea. That's the one we need. But you need somebody else who is not caught up in the dreamer phase, but to listen and said, oh yeah, but actually of all those dreamer things, they're not ready yet. Yet there is one thing we can do, and grab that. But that person cannot be a dreamer. That person might be, somebody will be thinking logically, or that might be a strategist, or that might be, and so they all have different energy. They're
Right.
all on different channels. And they are all absolutely essential to run the company. And yes, the person that is will be sticking to making sure
Routine.
that every step in the project will think that the creative person that doesn't respect any rule and just constantly, you give him a box and automatically that person will be outside the box. They'll be really, really intense, and they might not fit together. But you need both. Otherwise, you will be stuck in a routine and not progressing. If you're not progressing, you're going to die because somebody else is going to improve within your field. And so you need all those energy, and there will be phase where you will need more creative people or more researcher or more expansion, and some time where you will say, okay, we've expanded enough and we need people that are going to create system and put rules in place so that we can automatize that and secure that growth
Right,
until
right.
we
Put
can.
things in a pattern.
Exactly. But one is not better than the other. But
So,
sorry.
so this is interesting. When you say one is not better than the other, in other words, you're trying to say that if I'm on a channel, I should own the channel. I should accept the channel
Mm-hmm.
and understand the purpose for the channel.
Yeah.
So if I'm boring, I need to understand the purpose. Why am I not doing anything at
Well, I
this
would
time?
challenge the boring part.
Right. Rather than if I need a routine to achieve a goal in life,
Mm-hmm.
I should stay on that routine.
Yeah.
If I need variety as a spice of life,
You will find it.
so I wanted to walk us and everyone listening on this stream back to that time in your life when you were conscious and mindful of the channel you were in, and you knew you needed to change it?
Oh,
Because
okay.
this is important. I want us to bring in some kind of stories from our personal lives
Uh-huh.
into this conversation. You know, can you think about anyone?
Well, I suppose um, I wasn't a coach always. It's not like I woke up when I was a little girl saying, "Oh, I want to be a coach." Um, and I went through a burnout myself.
Hmm.
So when I talk of being only on one channel, that was me. Kind of people thought that I was really exhausting. And then at some point, I woke up one day and there was no energy left in the tank, none whatsoever. I could have, turned the engine, it would not work.
Hmm.
And it had come to a point where it was physical, emotional, and mental. There was no energy left to give. And it was a huge wake up call for me because I only knew one channel. I only knew that on channel impossible is not something, it's not part of my vocabulary. If somebody tell me, can you do that? Yes, I can. And I'm going to do everything else. Not, I'm already overstretched right there. So if you want me to do that, which other part of the different tasks you've asked me to do you want me to give up? That was not even part of the possibility that I could come through. It was like, okay, literally, I can forgo sleep. It's okay. If the person is asking that of me, it means that it is a possibility. There is a possibility. There is a universe where it is possible, and I'm going to make it happen.
Hmm.
And literally, there was not even, I think at some point, there was not even the off channel. There was not even an off switch. It was like 100% on all the time. Everybody around me thought I was either exhausting, amazing, or if you were the company I was working in, they were like, oh yeah, we want her because hey, you know what, she can do the job of 3 people all at once, all rolled
Wow.
up in one package. Great, we like her. Except that one day the light went off overnight. You could not, and I do know a lot of people that felt guilty because one day I was there and I was doing all those things and juggling all those things, making it seemingly easy. And then one day I disappeared. I collapsed. I mean, as in,
Wow.
one day I was on, one day I was not. And that day lasted, that moment lasted a long while. But it forced me to realize that it's okay to sleep. It's okay to admit that, well, I need to rest. It's okay to say, you're going to have to tell me which of these projects you want me to focus on.
Hmm.
If I am not in a position to make that decision, you're going to have to make that decision for me because there is only 24 hours in a day. And I do going to focus on 8 hours of that being, for me, being turned off, going to sleep. So let's talk. And but it has been a very, very, and I'm still learning because
Right.
inherently I'm still on the, oh, 100%. It's kind of like almost an addiction. I think it's who I am. I'm a high energy intensity person to start with, but I have learned that I can't be that all the time because
Hmm.
otherwise I'm going to go back to zero where I slept 20 hours a day because that's the only thing I could do. And I'm
Wow.
not ready to do that again. So
Wow.
it has been a lot of trial and error. It has been making peace with the fact that, yeah, one day I was on, one day I was off. And when you are, uh, a high intensity person being off overnight and having somebody telling you, yeah, you're going to be off work for a long time now. It's the hardest part, I think, was that discussion, and realizing that it wasn't my company. I mean, yeah, okay, there are some circumstances. If I looked at the whole situation at the time, yes, the environment, the circumstances were not necessarily favorable to me having a good night's sleep or me finding ways to, balance things. Granted. But the thing was, it was my life and therefore my own responsibility to say, you know what? Yeah, no, I have all those responsibility. What is important to me, and maybe what I need is to sleep. And it's that for me, the last 15 years have been that learning curve, have been that acceptance that, first of all, I went from 100 to 0 overnight, and I had to live with that and to accept it that it happened, but then to build up a system and a life where I could, and I'm still high energy and high intensity, but build in within my life pledges and blocks that are non-negotiable, where I'm going to be me. And if that means that I'm going to turn off my phone, turn off television, turn off the internet, and just take a book and read, and certainly not about coaching or anything, but just
Right.
read, literally turn off the external world so that I can be with me, and he can be with a journal and writing, because that's what I found helpful. But not everybody will do that. But it's that acknowledging that this is what I need, and acknowledging that I don't need to feel guilty or, I should be doing something else. No, that's what I need right now. That's what I'm going to do right now. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to do that 24/7 for 6 months. No, I'm going to do it for an hour. In my calendar, there is that hour that is blocked. I'm going to do whatever I need to do. And then I'm going to come back. But what I have realized with time is that it allowed me to be much more efficient when I came back. Not because I felt guilty because I took an hour off. It's
Right.
because I had more energy and more, vigor to go out again and go at it again. But it was a learning process, and it's still it's still something that you work on. I don't think that I do find that the more tired I get, the more I will push towards towards the extreme. And that's where I really need to actually be strong with myself and say, no, no, we're going to unplug now, and we're going to do something quiet and take care of yourself right here, right now. You'll come back to it. But that's the hardest part, I think.
It's so interesting that you're sharing this with us, Joel, because it's practical. It's practical. This is exactly life as we see it. You were working 100%, wanting to get it right, doing three people's responsibilities, doing it excellently, and everyone was saying, "Oh, that's the person we want. You are the best thing since sliced bread. You are the real
Not
McCoy."
sure they were saying that,
Oh,
but yeah.
but you were getting all the accolades or the praise, right? However, something was being eroded on the inside that no one could see on the outside.
Yeah.
Even you couldn't stop yourself at that time. Like you mentioned, the circumstances around you kind of allowed or agreed with that lifestyle, you know?
Yeah.
And then snaps one day. In my own case, I recall that, I've always been thought as the go-to person. So if my brother needed a question, he just said, "Oh, ask Charles." Oh, he had something. "Oh, ask Charles." So one day he calls me up and then he asks me, "I like to know about such and such," and I said, "I don't know."
Yeah.
He said, really? I say, yes, I don't know. And they said, oh, I never thought there was anything you didn't know. So I said, no, I don't know. Yeah, because you see that I don't have to go scouting for information and solutions to
Mm-hmm.
everyone's problems 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It's
Yeah,
okay not to know. It's okay not to have the solution. So
exactly.
at that time, he was shocked. So my channel was showing shock, 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 you know. So that's it. So sometimes our channels are interesting. Sometimes our channels will be boring. Sometimes our channels will shock people. Sometimes our channels will change
Mm-hmm.
people's lives.
Absolutely.
you know. And what is important is for us to realize what channel we are on at this time,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And know that it can change, like you said.
And that you can change. Yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. And and if you're comfortable in a channel, and that it I had that discussion the other day with somebody who was like, I don't understand. I know whatever situation I'm in is not the right one, yet I can't seem to be able to change it.
Hmm.
It's like, yeah, because it's something you know. So it's if it is boring, but it's comfortable for you
Right,
and it's good for you, as
right,
in there is no negative consequences of that,
right.
then do you really need to change it?
Hmm.
If it's something you do because, well, it's always been done that way, I've always done it that way, but if you were to even tell your story to somebody, you would think, oh, gee, that person needs to change. At which point, that's where you have to ask yourself, could I do something differently?
Hmm.
And then maybe you need to change channel. But fundamentally, you're the one who knows how you feel, and you're the one that can change because nobody else can tell you how you feel, and you can change how you feel. You're the only one who can change how you feel, and so that's the trick, I think.
So life is like a decoder. Be intentional about the channels that you change.
Absolutely.
So some comments have come in while we're talking, Joel. Um, Someone says, this is awesome. We all need to hear this more often. That's in from Charity. And then someone else says, a class to learn new things all the time. This is excellent. That's a comment from Israel. And then another comment says, there are mirrors in between black and white in life. That's a comment from Toyin. So we've got comments, people listening to you in different platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. You know, I want to encourage everyone who's listening. You can send in your questions even afterwards, and then I'll send it up to Joel. She can share her perspectives and share the conversation with other people. The whole idea is to make the world a better place by talking about life without airs and talking about life just as we see it. So if you're just joining us, we are at the tail end of our conversation. And as it is our custom, I'm going to read the live class again, and then I'll come back to take final words from our esteemed guest and then call it a day. All right. So today we have been talking about life class with Charles with a particular reference to the class that says life is like a decoder. Life is like a decoder with many channels. Some channels are our favorites. Some programs are boring. Some shock us and some change us. Every life is a channel. What is your channel showing? The way you handle challenges at various stages and phases are like programs that shows on your channel. Your can-do spirit can turn fainters to fighters. The way you look, speak, and walk can be an inspiration worthy of emulation. Heaven and earth is watching you. What are you showing? Remember, your life is a channel. Final thoughts, Joel.
Well, I didn't think that we would be covering. I was a little bit concerned when you called me and said, "Oh, can you do that? Life is a decoder." I didn't think it would take us where it took us. It's different channel, and we all have those channels, and we can change the channels whenever. Turn the dial and move to a different channel if it doesn't suit you, and if it suits you, stay where you're at. Enjoy it.
Thank you so much for coming on the live class with
Well,
Charles.
thank you for having me.
I look forward to engaging you on different conversations. And, I'm sure that today our life is a channel and the whole world is watching us. And everyone else can take some piece of our conversation, adapt, adopt, or adjust. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, everyone, for
Thank
tuning
you.
in. Next week, we'll be back with another live class. Until then, be the best, the very best. Bye for now.
Bye. Thanks.